Hey, what's up, and welcome to another episode of Lightroom 101. Today we're going to be talking about the split toning panel. Now, this is one of the most simple panels, and there's not a ton to it, but it can do a lot to your photos, so let's just jump right into it. Okay, so let's go over the basics of what it actually does. Here we have a section that says highlights, and what you can do is select a color in this kind of hue range where they have all the colors, or you can just click on this and pick exactly what you want. So what you are doing in this section by picking a color and then adding saturation is you're affecting just the highlights right here. And how this affects your photo actually depends a lot on the photo, how much of it is highlights, how much of it is shadows, and basically like almost everything else in Lightroom, it's not an exact science, and you just kind of add an effect to taste, see if you like it, see if you don't like it, if it works for the photo, and let's see what we can do with this. Now, I don't frequently actually use split toning very much, and when I do, it's very subtly because you can kind of mess up your photos. Something I used to do a lot was turn it up all the way because I thought I wanted to use all the effects as much as possible in Lightroom. But I mean, it can kind of ruin your photo. It might look cool in the moment, but I don't know. It's up to you. I would suggest using it sparingly. Something it can be really good for though is, say you have highlights like this that are a little bit blown out. You can kind of add a little bit of color back to them. See, like a sunset like this, you might want to not just have straight white highlights, kind of add some purple or like warm tones or even cool tones for like this weird like fade of orange to teal. So maybe something like this. I'm gonna take it down just a little bit. And then shadows is the same thing as affecting the highlights, except it affects the shadows, so like your dark areas. You can see that this is bringing up this part. Actually, I use shadows much more than I use the highlight effect in split toning. I just think it's just easier to add a subtle effect instead of something so heavy-handed. So I like this, adding a little bit of a blue tone to the shadows, kind of creating more of a contrast between the sunset. Okay, so let's see what we did. Not too much, but I do think the photo actually looks better. I would probably, before I exported for a final photo, I would actually probably get rid of the highlight effect. And if I wanted to change the warmth of the background, I'd probably just adjust the temperature, to be honest. But that's the cool thing with split toning. When you adjust the temperature, your split tone still stays. So even if it goes crazy like that, we still have a little bit of that teal bluish in the shadows. So there you go. That's exactly what split toning does. Let's jump into a few things we can do with it. So something you can do with split toning really easily is turn a black and white photo into kind of a retro like sepia tone image. So all you have to do for that is add a little bit of like brownish red into the highlights or the shadows. It's still only like 3 colors, so you're still getting that like black and white effect, but just with that little bit of a faded, aged brown look, which I know some people like. And you can even put a little bit more depth into this. So if you're adding some brown to the shadows, maybe add a little bit of like purple fade to the highlights. Not too much, but just enough to kind of give it a little bit more depth, but it still feels like a black and white vintage old style image. Okay, so something else we can do with it that I used to do a lot and way overdue, and it's actually really easy to overdo. Say you take an image, let's take this, make a new virtual copy, reset the whole edit. I'm gonna actually crop back in a little bit. We'll do it one by one. Yeah, so something you could do if you switch back to black and white, take 2 like contrasting colors, like let's do like teal and like reddish orange, and just crank those bad boys all the way up. You kind of get this cool, I don't know, movie poster-ish effect. It's like black and white but with reddish orange and teal, and you could play with this to taste as well. Okay, so that's about it for split toning. Again, it's an effect I use very sparingly, actually pretty infrequently, but you can get a lot out of it if it works for the image. So I hope you liked that Lightroom 101. If you have any other questions or things you want to see in Lightroom, please leave something in the comments, and I'd love to do that for you guys. I have a lot of other videos in a playlist for the Lightroom 101 series if you'd like to see some other of the tools explained, and thank you for watching.